You think you can take my child just because you wear his ring? Her voice trembled, but her eyes never left the woman who had taken everything. That single line, spoken in a silent courtroom, would ignite a battle no one in the gallery would ever forget. Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the most gripping, real-life inspired stories, filled with love, betrayal, and the fight for dignity. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe so you never miss our newest releases and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. We love knowing how far our stories travel. Tonight's tale will test your heart. A young woman, heavily pregnant, humiliated in public, forced to fight not only for her child, but for her worth as a woman. Stay with us until the very end, because what happens in this courtroom will leave you speechless. The courtroom reeked of varnish and sweat, heavy air pressing down like a storm about to break. Bintu Sese sat stiff in the wooden chair, her swollen belly straining against the fabric of her dress, her palms damp on the polished surface of the defense table. She forced herself to breathe evenly, to look at no one but the judge flipping papers on the bench. Yet the whispers behind her slid like knives across her back. "She doesn't even fit in that chair," a woman sneered loudly enough for the microphones to catch. The words clanged in Bintu's skull. She didn't need to turn around to know it was Clarissa, the woman who had stolen her husband, standing in the gallery with a smirk sharp as glass. The laughter that followed, hushed but cruel, made the wooden seat feel like a scaffold. Roland sat a few feet away, his gaze fixed on the floor as if ashamed. But when his lawyer rose with a stack of documents, Roland lifted his head and nodded. Mr. Grant's voice sliced through the silence. "Your Honor, my client insists that Mrs. Cisse is unstable. Her pregnancy has worsened her erratic moods. She has followed my client, photographed his home, and posed a risk to the unborn child." Bintu's chest tightened. Her daughter kicked hard, as if furious at the lies. She whispered to her attorney, Maya Reed, "That's not true." Maya leaned close, her voice a razor's edge. "Stay calm. They want you to explode. Don't give them the satisfaction." Clarissa gasped theatrically. "See? She's whispering again. Always paranoid, always plotting." Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Heat rose on Bintu's neck. Every instinct screamed to defend herself, yet she gripped the edge of the table until her knuckles whitened. Judge Thompson lifted his eyes. "Miss, you are not a party to these proceedings. Another outburst, and you will be removed." Clarissa tilted her head, her lips curling in a sweet, poisonous smile. "I only care about the safety of this child, Your Honor." The memory of Clarissa in her bedroom flashed through Bintu's mind. Clarissa draped in her robe, parading around as if the house were hers. The echo of that invasion burned hotter now. Grant pressed forward. "This is a woman drowning in desperation, clinging to accusations of hidden money without evidence, spinning tales because she cannot face reality." Maya shot up. "Objection! Statements without foundation." The judge rapped his gavel once. "Sustained. Stick to facts, Mr. Grant." But facts were not what Roland's team needed. They needed spectacle. Clarissa leaned forward, her voice just loud enough. "Look at her clothes. She can't even keep herself together. That child deserves better." The words detonated in the silence, cruel and deliberate. The gavel slammed down. "Miss Clarissa, final warning." Yet the woman rose from her seat, brazen, her diamond ring catching the fluorescent lights. "Everyone sees it, Your Honor. She's pathetic. No wonder Roland left her." The insult cracked through Bintu like a whip. Her pulse hammered. The baby shifted violently inside her. For a moment she thought her legs might give, that the room might swallow her whole. Roland finally spoke, not to shield her, but to defend the woman who mocked her. "My fiancé is only concerned for my daughter. Cassandra has tried to turn people against us." Fiancé. The word punched the breath from her lungs. The divorce was not even final, yet he had already crowned Clarissa with the promise of forever. Maya's voice cut through the haze. "Your Honor, request for recess. My client is in her third trimester." The judge studied Bintu's trembling hands, then nodded. 10 minutes. Chairs scraped as the courtroom emptied, but Clarissa strolled past Bintu's table, heels clicking, perfume thick. She bent as if to retrieve something, her whisper searing. "You should have known. Men like Roland never stay with women like you. Younger, prettier, whiter. That's who wins. Bintu lifted her gaze, meeting the cold glitter in Clarissa's eyes. Anger blazed, but fear coiled tighter. Stay away from my child. Clarissa laughed softly, a sound like broken bells. Your child? She'll be ours. I'll be her stepmother, and you'll be nothing more than a weekend visitor. Maya's arm pressed between them, her tone sharp. That's enough. Back to your seat. Clarissa straightened, her triumph painted across her perfect smile. As she walked away, the gallery whispered again, and Roland's quiet grin at his phone twisted the knife deeper. The world tilted, cruel and bright, but Bintu pressed her hand to her belly. She would not break. She would not give them the show they craved. She would endure every glare, every insult, every calculated humiliation, because one truth burned hotter than the lies. Her daughter's future was not theirs to decide. The taste of Clarissa's perfume still clung to Bintu's throat as she sat in the empty hallway during recess, her palms pressed against the cool stone wall. The courthouse clock ticked, each second dragging her back into memories she wished she could erase. She closed her eyes and the world rewound to 6 months earlier, when her house still smelled of fresh paint and hope. That morning she had been humming while setting the table for breakfast, her body light with the secret of a new life. The pregnancy test lay hidden in her purse, waiting for the right moment to surprise Roland. She had imagined his face when she told him, had even practiced the words. Instead, her hand froze over the frying pan as Roland's phone buzzed, again and again, the name Clarissa flashing like a wound across the screen. She remembered answering his call, her voice steady though her heart raced. Roland, your phone keeps going off. He appeared at the doorway, hair damp, tie half knotted, eyes narrowing when he saw what she held. Give it to me, he said quickly, stepping forward. She pulled back, her thumb trembling as she opened the thread. Photos. Clarissa smiled in their kitchen, her bare shoulder wrapped in Roland's shirt. Texts filled with declarations of love and plans for a future that erased her. Explain this, Bintu demanded, holding the phone like evidence in a trial. His face drained, then hardened. It's not what it looks like. The words sounded rehearsed, hollow. She felt her stomach twist. Not what it looks like. She's in our house. She's wearing your shirt. She's mocking me in my own kitchen. He tried to touch her arm, but she recoiled. Don't, she snapped, her voice sharp as broken glass. While I was praying for a child, you were bringing her here. His lips pressed thin. You don't understand. You've changed. You're distant. Clarissa makes me feel alive again. Bintu's body shook, disbelief colliding with fury. Alive? I am carrying your child. Is that not life enough? His silence was worse than confession. In that moment, she saw the truth. He wasn't sorry, he was caught. The kitchen spun, the smell of burnt eggs turning her stomach. She grabbed her purse, the pregnancy test inside suddenly heavy, and stormed out before the walls collapsed on her. Later that week, she returned to gather her things. The driveway held a silver car she didn't recognize. Clarissa's car, bold as a flag. Inside, laughter floated from the living room. Clarissa sat cross-legged on the couch Bintu had chosen, sipping from the chipped mug Bintu had kept since college, the one she thought too precious to throw away. Roland looked up, startled, but Clarissa didn't flinch. Oh, you're home early, she said with a smile that sliced. Bintu dropped her keys on the table, the sound sharp as gunfire. This is my house, get out. Roland rose, palms raised. Bintu, let's talk calmly. She turned her glare on him. Calm? You let her into our home, into our bed, and you ask me to be calm? Clarissa leaned back, crossing her legs, her red dress bright as blood. We didn't mean for it to happen, but sometimes love finds a way. Bintu's voice cracked under the weight of disbelief. Love? You think this is love? Deceit and betrayal paraded in my face? Clarissa tilted her head, feigning sympathy. Roland deserves happiness. Maybe you should accept that. Fury surged, but Bintu steadied her voice. You don't get to lecture me in my own house. She turned to Roland, her eyes blazing. When were you going to tell me? When I held our baby in my arms? He looked away, and his silence was answer enough. The betrayal was complete. She picked up her suitcase, her hands shaking but firm. Roland reached for her wrist, but she pulled free. Don't touch me again. You've already taken too much. As she walked out, neighbors across the street paused to watch, their eyes cold with judgment. One whispered just loud enough, "Figures, always drama with women like her." The words stung deeper than she expected, not because of their content, but because of the casual cruelty. She clenched her jaw, refusing to let them see her break. She carried her suitcase to the car, each step heavier, each breath sharper. Yet beneath the humiliation, a quiet resolve began to harden. They had stolen her trust, mocked her dignity, and paraded their affair without shame. But she would not vanish. She would not hand the child she carried. Back in the courthouse hallway, Bindu opened her eyes, the memory burning like acid. She pressed a hand to her belly, whispering to the life inside, "You are mine. No one takes that from me." The baby kicked, small but strong, as if answering. For the first time that day, Bintu felt her resolve eclipse the humiliation. Clarissa's sneers and Roland's cowardice had built a wall of fire around her, but she would walk through it, unburned. The courthouse cafeteria smelled of burnt coffee and bleach, the clatter of trays echoing off pale walls. Bindu sat at a corner table, her water untouched, the hum of voices a blur. Maya leaned forward, spreading files between them, her green eyes sharp. "Roland's team is betting you'll crack. They'll claim hormones make you unstable, that you can't handle custody." Bintu's hands trembled against her lap. "So they'll twist my pregnancy into a weapon." Maya nodded grimly. "That's the play, but we fight it with discipline and witnesses." The glass door swung open, and a woman walked in, silver hair tied neatly, shoulders squared. She looked more like a retired school principal than someone stepping into a battlefield. She carried a folder pressed to her chest, eyes scanning until they landed on Bintu. "Mrs. Say." Her voice was warm but firm. Bintu rose cautiously. "Yes, I'm Bintu." The woman extended her hand. "Eleanor White. I taught in the district for 40 years. I was at the clinic last month when that woman spoke to you." Bintu froze, the memory raw. "You were there?" Eleanor nodded, her gaze steady. "I heard every word. She said that the baby didn't belong in this world, not with your skin. I've never forgotten cruelty like that." Maya straightened, the tension in her shoulders easing for the first time all day. "Would you be willing to testify?" Eleanor opened the folder, revealing notes written in neat cursive. "I already prepared a statement, dates, times, everything." I refused to let her lies stand unchallenged. Bintu sank back into her chair, tears pricking her eyes, but she clenched her fists, forcing composure. "Why would you help me?" Eleanor's expression softened. "Because silence protects bullies. I spent my life teaching children to stand tall. I won't sit quietly while a mother is humiliated for the color of her skin." Bintu swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "She wants to take my child. She acts like she already owns her." Eleanor leaned closer, her hand covering Bintu's. "She can wear diamonds, she can whisper poison, but she cannot rewrite truth. The court needs to hear what she is. And you," she paused, her grip tightening, "you need to show them you are unbreakable." The words settled deep in Bintu's chest, solid as stone. She looked at Maya, who gave a faint smile. "With Eleanor on the stand, they can't dismiss your story as paranoia. It becomes evidence." For the first time, the scales felt less tilted. Bintu inhaled slowly, her resolve knitting together like steel threads. Hours later, walking toward the courtroom again, Bintu noticed the stares that followed her swollen belly and dark skin. Two men near the water fountain muttered under their breath, "She's lucky the judge even listens. Women like her never win." Her pulse spiked, but she held her head high. She whispered to the child inside her, "They don't decide your worth. They never will." When Clarissa strutted past, diamond flashing, she smirked. "Back again, clinging to sympathy." Bintu stopped, the hallway narrowing into silence. "I don't need sympathy," she said calmly. "I have truth." Clarissa's smile faltered for half a breath before she flicked her hair and disappeared into the gallery. Eleanor's voice rang from behind. That shook her. "Keep speaking like that." Inside the courtroom, as Maya gathered her notes, she whispered, "We'll put Eleanor forward tomorrow. Today you stay steady. No outbursts, no cracks. Bintu nodded, her palm pressed against her belly. Her child shifted, a firm kick that felt like agreement. She whispered under her breath, "I'm not afraid anymore." Maya caught the words and whispered back, "Good. Fear is what they feed on. Courage is what they can't swallow." The judge entered, gavel striking. As the room hushed, Bintu sat taller, her eyes finding Roland. He looked away first, fidgeting with his tie, the mask of confidence slipping. Clarissa leaned close to whisper something to him, but his jaw tightened instead of smiling. The power had shifted, subtle but undeniable. The courtroom buzzed like a hive about to split open, the low hum of voices snapping into silence when Judge Thompson entered. Bintu straightened, her hands folded on the table, her belly heavy, her resolve heavier. Roland sat across the aisle, tapping his pen, his lawyer Grant standing tall with a smug half-smile. Clarissa occupied the front row, her red dress catching every light, her diamond ring flashing like a challenge. Bintu fixed her gaze on the wood grain of the table, grounding herself. The baby shifted inside her, a pulse of strength. Grant began, his voice smooth. "Your Honor, today we present testimony from Ms. Clarissa Miller. She has witnessed the instability of Mrs. Cisse firsthand. She has seen the rages, the obsessive behavior, the neglect." Clarissa rose with rehearsed grace, placing her hand on the Bible before taking the stand. She crossed her legs deliberately, angling her ring toward the gallery. "Roland deserves peace," she declared, her voice laced with condescension. "But Bintu, has made his life unbearable." Bintu felt her fingernails digging into her palms, but she kept her expression still. Maya rose slowly, her tone clipped. "Ms. Miller, when exactly did you meet Mr. Donovan?" Clarissa smiled sweetly. "A year ago." Maya arched a brow. "So while Mrs. Cisse was still living with him?" Clarissa's confidence didn't waver. "He told me they were separating. She was difficult, distant, unstable." Maya stepped closer. "And yet you visited their home? Drank from her mugs? Slept in her bed?" Clarissa's jaw tightened, but she lifted her chin. "He invited me. It was his house, too." A ripple of unease moved through the gallery. Maya's voice sharpened. "Did you ever speak about Mrs. Cisse's pregnancy?" Clarissa faltered for a second before recovering. "I may have mentioned it. I thought she was unfit, overwhelmed." Maya pressed. "Do you recall saying her child didn't belong in this world?" Clarissa's face flushed, her hands twisting in her lap. "I might have been frustrated. People say things." Gasps erupted. Judge Thompson leaned forward, his tone heavy. "Answer directly. Did you or did you not say it?" Clarissa's eyes darted to Roland, then back to the judge. "Yes, I said it." The silence that followed was deafening. Maya turned, her eyes locking on the jury box. Though no jury sat, only the judge. "So your concern was not for the child's safety, it was contempt for the child's very existence?" Clarissa snapped. "That's not fair. I only meant—" "No further questions," Maya cut her off. Eleanor White was called next. The elderly woman stepped forward, her shoulders straight, her notes in hand. She adjusted her glasses before speaking. "I was at the clinic on March 15th. I heard Ms. Miller say those words. She ridiculed Mrs. Cisse, mocked her skin, and dismissed her baby. I was horrified. I wrote it all down." She handed the statement to the clerk, her voice unwavering. "In 40 years of teaching, I have seen cruelty. But this was worse, because it was aimed at an unborn child." Roland shifted uneasily, whispering something to Grant, but Grant waved him silent. Maya seized the moment. "Your Honor, this is not about instability. It is about systematic humiliation, betrayal, and an attempt to erase a mother from her child's life." She turned to Bintu, her voice softening. "Mrs. Cisse, would you like to speak?" Bintu rose slowly, her legs steady despite the weight she carried. She faced the bench, not the gallery. "I am not here to beg. I am here to protect. I want my daughter to grow up knowing love, not lies. I will not let anyone claim she is less because of me, because of us." Her voice cracked, but her eyes blazed. "They can insult me, strip me of my home, my marriage, my dignity, but they will not take her. The gallery was silent, the air thick with unshed words. Judge Thompson tapped his pen once, then spoke. The evidence is clear. The remarks, the contempt, the financial misconduct, all point to bad faith. Custody will remain with Mrs. Cisse. Mr. Donovan's visitation will be supervised until further review. Roland's shoulders collapsed, his face pale. Clarissa covered her mouth, but her diamond ring could not hide her trembling fingers. Bindu sat slowly, her hand cradling her belly. The child within moved, alive and fierce. She closed her eyes, letting the judge's words settle like armor. For the first time since the nightmare began, the scales tipped toward justice. The small apartment smelled faintly of lavender and fresh laundry, a world away from the polished wood and cold stares of the courtroom. Evening light filtered through thin curtains, washing the living room in soft gold. Bintu sat on the couch, rocking her newborn daughter against her chest, the rhythm of the infant's breathing steady and pure. Every sigh from the child calmed the storm that had raged in her life for months. She whispered, almost afraid to break the spell, "Zoe, you are safe now. No one will take you from me." The baby stirred, tiny fists curling, and Bintu pressed a kiss to her forehead. A knock at the door startled her. For a moment her pulse jumped, the old fear rising, but the voice outside was gentle. "It's Eleanor. May I come in?" Relief spread through her chest. She opened the door to find the older woman standing with a paper bag of groceries, her silver hair glowing in the dusk. "You didn't have to," Bintu said softly. Eleanor's smile was firm. "Nonsense. You've carried more than anyone should. Let me carry something for you." She stepped inside, placing the bag on the table, her eyes falling to Zoe. "She's beautiful. She has your strength already." Bintu blinked back tears, shifting the baby so Eleanor could see. "Sometimes I wonder if I have any strength left." Eleanor touched her arm. "Strength isn't about never breaking. It's about standing after you've fallen. And you stood, Bintu. You stood for her." The words settled like balm on raw wounds. Bintu exhaled, the knot in her chest loosening. "When Clarissa said those things, when Roland looked away, I thought the world would swallow me whole. But in that courtroom when you spoke, I realized I wasn't alone." Eleanor's eyes softened. "You weren't, and you never will be. There are more of us than you know, people who refuse to bow to cruelty. You reminded me of that." Bintu lowered her gaze to Zoe, brushing a fingertip along her cheek. "I promised her that she would never grow up believing she was less. I don't care how many people try to tell her otherwise." The baby yawned, her lips forming a perfect O, and Eleanor chuckled. "She'll hear it, child, but she'll also hear your voice louder. That's what will shape her." The phone buzzed on the table, Roland's name lighting the screen. Bintu froze, her heart clenching. She didn't answer, but the weight of his presence pressed into the room. Eleanor noticed and asked gently, "Do you want to pick up?" Bintu shook her head. "No, not tonight, not while she's sleeping in peace." The phone went silent, the name vanishing into darkness. Bintu whispered, more to herself than to Eleanor, "He lost his chance. He lost us." Eleanor nodded, her voice steady. "And you gained freedom. Don't forget that." Later, after Eleanor left, Bintu sat by the window, Zoe nestled against her. The city hummed outside, cars passing, dogs barking, but inside was stillness. She thought of the gallery's laughter, of Clarissa's venom, of the judge's gavel striking like thunder. She thought of neighbors whispering, of the weight of judgment pressed against her skin. All of it had tried to break her. Yet here she was, breathing, holding the proof of her endurance. She murmured to her daughter, "They tried to erase us, but love rewrote the story." The baby stirred and cooed, eyes opening briefly, dark and bright all at once. Bintu smiled through tears. "You'll grow up strong, Zoe. You'll know your worth. And when the world tries to tell you otherwise, you'll remember this fight. You'll know that your mother chose truth over silence." She pressed her cheek against the baby's soft hair. "And you'll never doubt that you were loved." The apartment lights flickered on as night deepened. Bintu wrapped a blanket around Zoe, laying her gently in the crib by the bed. The child's chest rose and fell in perfect rhythm, innocence untouched. Bintu stood there, one hand resting on the crib's edge, the weight of her journey washing over her. She had walked through humiliation, betrayal, and prejudice, yet she had not surrendered. The scars would remain, but they were proof of survival, not defeat. She turned off the lamp, and the room bathed in quiet shadows. Before slipping into bed, she whispered one last vow into the darkness. No matter what comes, we will rise. Always. The silence answered with peace, the kind she had thought forever lost. For the first time in months, she closed her eyes with no fear, only hope. Thank you for staying with us through this powerful journey of love, betrayal, and resilience. Stories like Bintu's remind us that dignity and courage can light even the darkest path. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of this story spoke to you most? Share your reflections in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Elite Romance so you never miss the next story we bring to life. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, you are stronger than you think.